Hello and welcome. Thanks for tuning in. In today's video, we're going to use NetAPI to validate whether local usernames defined on devices are compliant with what we expect. We'll use a simple Python script to print the compliance results out to the screen. Firstly, let's look at the API endpoint that we'll be using. Under the NAPALM grouping, the one that we'll be using today is NR NAPALM's users hosts. This particular call takes a host parameter. And with that, we'll go and check all the locally defined usernames on a device using the getUsers napalm function. Okay, let's now run the script for today and let's see what happens. So we type in Python, local username compliance, and we will use the help option to look at the available options. Okay, as we can see, the script here has the host option where you need to supply a host that needs to be queried and the debug option, which is currently set to false by default. So let's run this script. I'm going to run it on a device in my lab, which is a Cisco iOS device. This particular device is lab CSR01. So we'll run the script. Okay, and as we can see, we have some output to the screen. It's telling us that the configured users are compliant. So what we have here is a compliant user list. This is the user list configured in the script and the actual user list. This is the user list configured on the device in question. To show the true value of napalm, what we're going to do now is run this script against an Arista device. Okay, again, we can see that our actual user list and our compliant user list match, and therefore we have a compliant device. This isn't particularly interesting at the moment, so let's come along and let's pretend we have someone in the network who is a ninja who decides to add a locally defined username which isn't on our compliant user list. So as you can see here, Ninja has come along and added a locally defined username. Let's run this script again. And as you can see now, the locally defined users on this device are now no longer compliant. We have an extra value here named Ninja. What we will do now is remove this local username and clean up after Ninja. Let's run the script again. And as we can see, we are now compliant again. So let's quickly have a look at the script and look at the parts of interest for you. Firstly, I'll just say starting off that the entire script and the others provided in the NetAPI tools repository have detailed comments against each line or blocks of code. It should be very simple to follow. However, if you have any questions, feel free to let me know. Okay, so if we scroll down through this script, there are particular values which need to be adjusted to your environment. The URL would obviously be the URL of your NetAPI instance. You would also need to adjust your list of allowed users. As you can see, I have 3 users that are allowed in this example. And by adjusting these 2 values, this is all you need to do to translate this to your environment. Scrolling down in the script further, you can see that we are using the Python request module to query the API and to gather the structured data. Scrolling down further, you'll notice that I have provided an example of the structured data which you should expect to see returned. Then the response of the request is then passed over and the usernames are retrieved and appended to a list. Those lists are compared using a list comparison, and depending on a success or failure, different error messages are printed. All up, there isn't much code here, and it is pretty straightforward to follow along with and understand. Finally, let's try out the debug option so that we can see what additional information is available from the script. So first off, we're going to run this on the successful Arista device with the debug option on. As you can see here, we have the full API call, the response code, and the raw text. This is roughly what you see over here, just with the values specific to my environment. Now let's run the debug option on a fictitious device, such as Lab Arista 101. As you can see now, we get the API call again, a different response code, and the response raw text. That concludes today's video. In today's video, we validated that all local usernames complied with our defined list of approved usernames. We saw how easy it is to retrieve data about devices and access values to perform comparisons. This script and others can be found at the Net API Tools repository, where a list of examples have been made to spark your imagination for your needs. You are always welcome to contribute your own examples to this repo and help the community. Thanks for taking the time to learn about Net API, and I hope this video has been helpful. Bye for now.